Hello, everybody. My name is Dominika Wilczok, and recently I had a huge honor of collaborating with Dr. Alex Shabrankov, the leader of AI drug discovery industry and the founder of In Silico Medicine, who has 12 years of experience in the industry. We collaborated on the paper that just got published in Clinical Pharmacology and Therapeutics Journal, and the paper is called Progress, Pitfalls, and Impact of AI-driven Clinical Trials. However, before we even can start talking about clinical trials, we have to get through extensive preclinical work. So, in this paper, we explore challenges that AI discovered therapeutics encounter on the way to their clinical trial approval, which hasn't happened yet, and the opportunities that also arise on the way. So, over the past 10 years, since deep neural networks started outperforming humans on different tasks such as image and pattern recognition, we've seen a lot of huge claims that AI is going to fully transform many industries, and drug discovery was one of them. There were huge headlines, huge promises, but so far, no drug has been approved yet. And of course, we've seen AI make huge progress. It's shown us new ways to find and design drugs significantly faster, taking the development stages from years to months, cutting down costs and allowing for more precision. However, as I mentioned, with all this progress and all these achievements, none of the drugs went past phase 2A yet. None of the drugs have been yet approved. And many of the programs didn't even make it to human clinical trials before being discontinued. So, why is this happening? Dr. Andriy Buvailo, an industry analyst from Biopharma Trend, explores pharma industry trends and analyzes it on a much deeper level than other media outlets. I had the privilege of working with him and being the Biopharma Trend contributor. So if you're interested, please go and read some of my articles there. But the focus of this specific slide is that Dr. Buvailo published an extensive AI drug discovery industry report from 2023. And while reading this, I couldn't help but notice that there were 205 programs in AI drug discovery, but only 31 of them ever reached clinical trials, which stands for about 15%, and three were already discontinued. And something that needs a lot of attention, then I will talk about this in further slides, is that not every of these programs went from target identification to developing their own therapeutics. Some of them were in licensed. What that means, I will explain in further slides. But the biggest takeaway from this slide is that there is a lot of programs, 10 years of experience, but no drugs approved yet. So the main figure of our paper outlines five main stages of drug discovery. There's biology, chemistry, and then so on, all the steps such as IND and the enabling studies that goes until clinical trials and finally approval. And you can see when you go to the paper and take a look at the zoomed version of this figure, how AI adoption can help at the different parts of these steps. So you can see there is a lot of options. For example, in chemistry, there is protein structure predictions, such as the tool called AlphaFold, which won the Nobel Prize in 2024. It is a great advancement, but still it's a tiny part of the entire AIDD puzzle. So we outline three main models that AIDD companies take on their way to getting a drug approved. The first model is dubbed skipping chemistry. So you can see that you go through biology, skip the entire chemistry over here, and then go straight into sometimes even phase 2. So the companies that follow this model employ AI to generate disease and target hypotheses, then in-license known drugs, repurpose generics, or even utilize common reagents. This approach allows them to bypass years of hit identification, optimization, and early trials. However, while it enables rapid initiation of even phase 2 studies, several programs have failed to demonstrate efficacy, leading to substantial declines in market value and general trust for AADD companies. For example, a company that is also focused in aging, an area very close to my heart, BioAge, in-licensed an apelin receptor antagonist against muscle wasting. They went directly into phase 2, but recently saw a discontinuation of this program. So we can see that this model carries high target choice risk, relatively low chemistry risk, but also a relatively low commercial potential of this model, especially when repurposing a known drugs. The commercial potential might be very limited, especially if you are a small AADD startup with little to no track record. Also, in-licensed drug often comes with their own liabilities regarding compound safety and efficacy, and again, this model has none of the drugs approved yet. Another model is dubbed skipping biology. So you can see on the way to approval over here, you skip all the years of disease modeling and target discovery, and you go directly into developing your own compound. And we estimate that about 80% of AADD companies follow these exact models. So what they do is that they focus on validated, high value, and highly established targets, and only then use AI design to aim to develop best-in-class differentiated molecules. So by avoiding the risks of target discovery and validation, they concentrate on achieving superior chemistry, which is a very challenging endeavor due to a lot of competition from established players, and they often have significant resources, significantly often higher than the startups. So this model presents low target choice risk, but high chemistry risk. But unfortunately, very often programs fail because of the poor target choice. And this is exactly the choice that determines the probability of phase 2 to phase 3 transition. So by using this model, you can skip a lot of time because all the assays for the compound and validation are already done. However, in all the great promise, we still haven't seen a success beyond phase 1 using this model. And finally, Model 3, which we dubbed end-to-end AADD, which seems to be the most extensive and on the first sight, the most risky. However, this is so far the model that's seen the biggest success. So utilizing an integrated end-to-end AI platforms that don't skip any of the steps, do it step by step without omitting any, the companies select and do their own research to find highly novel targets without clinical stage competition and design, of course, using AI, their own first-in-class molecules. So one such company in silico medicine, which the co-author of this paper, Dr. Alex Zavronkov, is the CEO of, recently shown a completion of phase 2A study demonstrating safety and efficacy. I highly encourage you to go and read more about this study because this is a tremendous milestone that was never seen before in this industry. So here we have partial success. The molecule has still not been approved. And when you consider this model for your own company, you have to identify that it requires the most work and it carries a lot of risk because if you want to land a deal with a big pharmaceutical company, you have to know that they don't really like novelty and are often hesitant until the target is validated. So again, so far, no drug has been approved using this model. There is one that is on a very good way to be approved. This is the in silico TNIK inhibitor. So far, the most work pays off, as it often looks like in life. So, however, regardless of the model that any company chooses to follow, there are still multiple parameters that they each have to follow. So, how to evaluate the performance of an AADD platform or the entire company? What are the assessment criteria for the AI-discovered therapeutic at every stage of discovery? Here we don't actually know. And why is that? Is that there's different properties that we need to consider and evaluate in any AADD program. So at the very beginning, we have something at the beginning of the biology in the timeline I showed you before, which is target novelty, potency, and safety. Novelty is essential to ensure that the therapeutic approach can address unmet medical needs, particularly in the areas where existing treatments fall short. So if the target has never ever been in clinical trials, we say it's novel. If it was in clinical trials but didn't show a clinical proof of concept, we can say that it's moderately novel. If it has efficaciously completed phase 2 studies, we know that it's validated for a particular indication. However, if it was validated for this specific indication, it is very likely to be efficacious in other indications. So then, target potency ensures that it offers a strong and measurable biological effect, which is very critical for developing an effective drug. And finally, safety at this stage is equally crucial because the downstream development process becomes increasingly expensive, and early elimination of unsafe targets reduce the resource waste later in the pipeline. Then we focus on the therapeutic itself. So novelty needs to be evaluated using multiple medicinal chemistry techniques, such as comparing it to existing compounds or targeting mechanisms by which it's hitting the target. So this evaluation ensures that the molecular therapeutic modality provides a distinct mechanism of action or improved pharmacological profile compared to existing treatments. Efficacy, often validated in preclinical or early clinical studies, ensures that drug achieves the intended biological outcome with measurable improvements. And again, safety, particularly in the therapeutic design state, involves balancing the efficacy with an acceptable side effect profile, because it very rarely or even never happens that there are no side effects. And it also has to consider dosing, pharmacokinetics, and pharmacodynamics. These factors combined influence the therapeutic likelihood of regulatory success and clinical adoption, about which I am going to talk about now, because a critical metric that AADD companies optimize for is probability of phase transition, otherwise known as POPT. And it reflects the likelihood that a therapeutic candidate successfully advances through various stages of clinical trials. So each phase, whether safety-focused phase 1, efficacy-focused phase 2, or larger scale studies phase 3, has its own challenges. So AI can also play a role here by improving candidate selection and predicting the outcomes, thereby increasing POPT. Another key focus is probability of technical and regulatory success, otherwise known as PTRS. And while the previous POPT deals with transition through clinical phases, PTRS encompasses the broader challenges of demonstrating sufficient evidence for approval. And this involves both technical hurdles such as scalability, how easy is it to get manufactured, or stability, and regulatory considerations, including compliance with the FDA, EMA, or other agencies. Then ultimately, the patient benefit, as patients should be at the very center of any drug discovery idea. So ultimately, all these optimizations are directed towards maximizing patient benefit. And patient-centric considerations ensure that the therapeutic does not only meet clinical endpoints, but also has potential to deliver real-world impact. And these includes factors like tolerability, ease of administration, accessibility, the potential of improved quality life. So, for example, you're actually extending years of quality life for the patients rather than marginally increasing the lifespan by a few months while still putting the cost on the patient and the healthcare system. So the success of any AADD initiative should not be judged only by its ability to navigate the pipeline, but also how well it translates to meaningful outcomes for the patients. And finally, very correlated with patient benefit, we have commercial potential to ensure the sustainability of the operations and scalability of the program. This involves evaluating market size, so whether you're focusing on a rare disease or a very common or chronic disease, competitive landscape, pricing strategy, or even reimbursement pathways. So a therapeutic may excel scientifically but fail commercially if it cannot reach patients effectively. So all this considered, in our paper, we identified 11 challenges in AIDD and we proposed some solutions in this complex environment. One of the challenges we identified is the lack of clear preclinical industry benchmarks. Because again, how do you evaluate the performance of an AI discovered drug against another? What are the criteria at every stage of discovery? So far, there are none. So all the factors that I just described in previous slides, like target novelty, therapeutic potency, patient benefits, and so on, this is not standardized. So we need to take a look at how much it costs, how long it takes to get the therapeutic into the clinical stage, also depending and differentiating by the target novelty and therapeutic novelty. So at this point, we really don't know because there are only a few entities that evaluate pharma R&D productivity at the very early preclinical stages, and they're all use their own method of comparison, such as surveys or dividing the number of programs by a number of clinically by the number of programs that advanced into clinical stages. So some of these companies are two consulting companies, Boston Consulting Group, McKinsey and Company, and two university consortia, the Tufts University Center for the for the Study of Drug Development, which is very famous for their cost study that showed that developing a drug takes over $2 billion. And the current emerging leader in R&D productivity analysis, the University of St. Gallen Consortium, including Dr. Alexander Schumacher and Dr. Oliver Gassman. And of course, there is the previously mentioned Biopharma Trend news portal mentioned earlier in the presentation. And they recently had a very good analysis of target novelty, how it can be evaluated. So I highly encourage you to also check out that. So to give you an example of how does current evaluation look like, I want to bring up a paper that we referenced in our paper discussed here by Schumacher et al., which laid the groundwork for understanding the AI adoption in pharma. And it highlights the industry-wide trends, such as the fact that startups has the highest proportion of applying AI to specifically drug discovery, while big established companies rather focus on general healthcare or diagnostics. So this analysis also revealed that the startups provide targeted solutions for specific challenges in the drug discovery, while big tech companies offer broader IT infrastructure and capabilities like cloud computing or healthcare analytics. So I highly encourage you to check out this paper as well. So now we have to focus on how do analysts currently evaluate AIDD companies. So as I told before, there are several metrics, but the most important ones are the number of patents, viewing them as indicators of innovation and intellectual property strength. And in AIDD, number of patents signal technological advancement and competitiveness. Another aspect of the analysis is technology demonstrations, a key metric to evaluating these companies. So right now, the technology demonstration provides a tangible proof of the company AI capabilities and their application to solving real-world drug discovery challenges, such as generating a novel molecular candidate. Another critical metric is the number of deals with big pharmaceutical companies, and these partnerships often serve as validation of the company technology and its potential to actually create value. It also signals that the company is seemed to be trusted. This collaboration can often provide access to resources, funding, expertise, and generally accelerate the development and commercialization of AI-discovered drugs. Such deals can take many forms, ranging from co-development agreements to licensing deals or even acquisitions. And the scale and terms of these partnerships often indicate how much confidence big pharma has in the specific AIDD company or platform. For example, milestone payments or royalties tied to the success of a therapeutic can reflect the perceived commercial viability of the collaboration and is currently very often used to somehow position the company or a platform among others. Another one is the quality of the investors, which often serves as a strong signal of credibility and potential, just like the number of deals with Big Pharma, because high-profile investors such as leading venture capital firms, private equity players, or strategic pharmaceutical backers often conduct rigorous due diligence before committing, effectively validating the company's technology, strategy, and growth prospects. And finally, just like in life, we have people associated with the company, their fame, their reputation, and also that is the researchers on the study, on the company, and the leadership of the company. Because the expertise and the track record of the key personnel play a significant role in the evaluation process. And in the highly specialized fields such as AI-driven drug discovery, having a team of blended with deep expertise in AI, computational biology, pharmaceutical development, medicinal chemistry, is often a very strong indicator of the company's potential. So these are the metrics that are currently used to rank AADD companies. Of course, they are useful, but we still need to add all the factors that I showed before, such as therapeutic safety, target novelty, and so on. And building on all these factors, analysts use to evaluate AADD companies. It is clear that the success in this space requires continuous evaluation and benchmarking because you can't always go comparing apples to apples. So over the past 10 years, as I showed before, the AADD industry accumulated extensive experience. However, this experience can only now be translated into reliable benchmarks, critical to evaluating every stage of drug discovery. However, to do that, the companies need to publish their results at very early stage of drug discovery because it's been 10 years, as shown on this graph of in silico medicine, but the benchmarks are still not developed, published, standardized, and accepted. So if you are an AADD company or a startup and you're listening to this humble presentation of mine, please publish the interim results of your programs, because only then we can gather enough data to standardize and to see what is happening and to ultimately help us all provide a clear and hopefully faster way towards clinical trials and ultimately towards clinical approval. So here I want to thank you so much for your attention, and please take a look at our open access paper. The link is in the description of this post. And we really hope that this message will reach not only people interested in AI drug discovery from the academic or commercial perspective, but also media and perhaps some government officials, because this message, if it reaches to as many stakeholders as possible, is actually going to help if you consider these challenges and our proposed solutions at what can be done. Because in this paper overview, I only analyzed one. There's 10 more for you to go over. So thank you so much for your attention again on behalf of Dr. Alex Zavrankov and myself. And I hope to see you metaphysically while reading the paper. Thank you so much.